Hello, this is Michael from Economy, and today's video will be the first of the EViews tutorials. As you can see from the website here, EViews is a program for innovative solutions for econometric analysis, forecasting and simulation. I advise you to download a copy. You can do what I've just done for the purpose of these videos and download the demo copy up the top here. And it basically provides you with a 30-day trial for the software. In this video today, we'll be showing you how to input your data from your Excel spreadsheets into EViews in three forms of cross-section, time series and panel data. So now we'll just exit this and we'll go into EViews here. Now you should be greeted with this box, but I don't really use it a lot. It shows you how to create a new one, open an existing one, open a foreign file, or you can just uncheck this box here, close that down, and this is how you import from Excel. So we've got our three files here: time series, cross section when it loads, and panel data. And so what we're going to do first is the cross section. So if you go down to file, to import, and import from file, you can see we'll choose the cross section 2008 here, click open, and it comes up with this page. Here you have list of the country names, GDP, these are all the indicators that I'm using. So CO2 emissions, population, fossil fuel. Cross-section is the easiest data type to input into EViews. You really shouldn't have to touch anything right now, you just click next. Make sure that the data type is character for country name, and for everything else, make sure it should be number. It can also have date when you're using time series data, which we'll see in a minute. After you check that everything's alright, click next. And what you want to check for is the basic structure here, which by default on this time it says undated with ID series. We don't want that. We want unstructured / undated for cross-section data. It comes up, it's already calculated the observations. If you have EView 7, you might have to input this yourself. Either way, once it knows, you just click finish, and up pops this window here. This is your work file. And as you can see, you have your CO2 emissions, your country name, fossil fuels, GDP, population. These are things that I have inputted from Excel. But you also have two extra ones here. The first one is C. That is the intercept. And the bottom one here, resid, that is your residuals. So when you're writing out your regression and you have the plus U, that is your residuals. And that is basically all you need to know for inputting cross-section data into Excel. So what you need to do is just click save, and you want to save with double precision. That's 16 digits. That saves the data up until 16 decimal places. And just click OK, name your file, and you're sorted for cross-section. What I'm going to do is delete that, and now we move on to time series data. So same process again, you go file, import, import from file, and now we're going to bring in the time series data here, which as you can see is from year 2001 all the way to 2010, and it's just for one country, time series data. Right here I've used the UK as an example. What you need to do is once you get to this stage, everything should be fine. You click next, and here you want to make sure that this year column is under the data file, the data type date, and that will let EViews know that these are the dates you're using. Next, you want to just double check again that all these remaining ones are the right data type, so mine are all number as is expected. Then you click next. Should open up here. Now you have this column here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 to 10 basically, and you can just ignore that. It's fine. EViews will sync the years and those numbers together. what you need to look out for is the basic structure is dated, specified by date series, because you have the dates in there. So you want to make sure it remains as that. It will also, EViews will pick up the frequency, or at least EViews 8 will pick up the frequency. EViews 7 you might have to specify that it is annual data you are dealing with here. And the identifier series, you want to make sure it does say year. And then once that's sorted, you just click finish. Again, you have your work file in, so you can save your work and you can move on. Right, now we delete that. And the final data type we'll be using here is panel data. So as you can see from the Excel file, panel data is time series and cross-sectional data combined. So in the country column here, we have Australia 10 times to show for each year we are having GDP, CO2, population, fossil fuel. Then we move on to Brazil. And again, for each year, you have GDP, CO2, population. Keeps going down. This is how you need to arrange your Excel file for EViews to recognize your data. So if you go back into EViews, again, you go File, Import, Import from File. We'll go to Panel Data here. This first sheet is always fine. You can also have the option here to read series by row, i.e. transpose the incoming data. But using this can be risky. It still depends on how you lay it out. I don't recommend using that. I recommend just arranging your Excel file like this. It's a lot easier. And then you click next. Now here you want to know country, data type is character, year, you need to change the date, and the rest should be number. And that should sort your file out. So my mouse is playing up there. Yeah, they are all number. Then you click next, go into here, and EViews has recognized that this is a dated panel structure. It also knows that the cross-section ID series is country, which it should be, and the date series is year, which again it should be. It's also recognized it is annual data. You need to check all of these to make sure that they are correct before you click finish. Then once again you have your work file here and it's ready to use. So thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, please hit like, please subscribe, and look out for the economy website and mobile app coming soon. Thank you. Bye. Hello and welcome. This is Michael from Economy, and this is the second episode in the EViews tutorials. And this episode will be on transforming your data when in the EViews program. As you can see, we have the time series data from the previous video. And the first little comment I'd like to make is that the names we have here are way too long for what we want to be doing in this file. So what we'd like to do is rename them as something that you can remember easily. So what you do is you right click, go down to rename. As you can see here, you can just name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it CO2 as it is CO2 emissions. And as you can see here, it will keep the original name of this indicator for use on tables and graphs and everything. It's an optional thing, it states there. We'd like to keep that there. As a failsafe, you still will have it on your Excel file here, so we don't need to worry about losing it at all. Back to the file, if we just rename all of these quickly, it will save a lot of time when typing out your regressions. So just name that fossil, GDP, and pop for population. The first thing about transforming your data, we'll be looking a lot at this gener button here, short for generate. As you can see, click it, you can generate a series by equation. This will add a new series to your work file here. So the first thing we'll be looking at here is how to take logarithms of your existing series. So with this work file, I'll be wanting to take the log of GDP. So first thing you do is just create a name for this new series. mine is ln/gdp, and then equals sign, and you say log, and in brackets put GDP or whatever you have named your series from before. As you can see on EViews 8, a drop down list comes up of all the existing series, and then once you're done with that, just click OK. As you can see, ln/GDP has come up here. These are the logarithms of my GDP series. Next we will look quickly at differences. So once again, you go to generate and you will type in whatever you want to call it. Mine will be GDP difference, or first difference, so D1 equals, and to get the first difference all you do is put D before the brackets in there, GDP, click OK, and here we go. You have the first difference. Obviously 2001, there isn't a previous entry, so that stays as non-applicable, and these are the differences of the rest of them. So we can close that down, and to get a second difference, or any number of differences that you'd like, what you do is a similar sort of process. So let's name it GDP D2 equals D GDP, and what you want to do is put a comma, then a 2, or whatever number of difference you want to find, and you click OK, and it will again create it. As you can see, 2 NAs because there isn't 2 differences before then, and that's it. That's how you create those. The next type of transformation you can do to your data is to create powers of your original series. So right now you go to generate. Here we're going to make GDP squared. So again, just name it anything you like. Mine's GDP2 equals GDP. Then you get the power sign and 2, and it's that simple. Click OK, and here we go. We've got the squares of GDPs. It works the same for any sort of power. So GDP3 equals GDP to the power of 3, and then we'll have our cube values for GDP right here. And the final type of data transformation we'll be looking at today is division between series. In this instance, we'll be creating the new series GDP per capita. So we'll type in GDP PC per capita equals GDP, and use a division sign and pop population there. And if you know your maths, which I'm sure you will, you know that it's just GDP divided by population equals GDP per capita. I'd like to point out that the process is similar for multiplication as well, where all you'd have to do is name it whatever. So GDP pop equals GDP times population, and that will come in useful if, say, you had GDP per capita figures and you'd like to create a total GDP series. You would use this multiplication here. Then we'll click cancel, and thank you again for watching this video. Please, if you liked, click like, click subscribe, and we'll see you soon for the next video. Welcome back. It's episode 3 of Economy's EViews tutorials. Today we'll be looking at dummy variables. This will be a quick tutorial focusing on 2 types of dummy variables, spike and shift. A spike variable is a dummy that you place on just 1 year within the time series work file, and I will show you how to create one. If you go up to generate, and you can call your dummy whatever you want. The purpose of this video is spike, and that is equal to 0. And you see the sample down the bottom here is for the whole sample, and so when we click OK, it will be applied to the entire work file, as you can see here. Now the easiest way to apply a spike variable is to just simply go to edit here, and if we add it to say 2005. Just click on that, type in 1, click enter. It is that easy. This is called a spike variable because if you go into view, graph, line and symbol, you can see it creates a spike in the graph. And the next variable we'll be looking at is a shift dummy variable, which all it does is apply a dummy after a certain period. So in order to apply this variable, go to generate, we'll name it shift, sorry it's all in caps there, shift equals 0. Again, very simple to apply there. But what you can see is it's all 0. We don't want that. So what you want to do is go to generate again, type shift, use the same name for this, equals 1, and just change the sample underneath here. So we want it from 2005 to 2010. When you click OK, you open it up, and the dummy has been applied from 2005 to 2010 there. So it's very good to apply this dummy if you're looking at an effect of something that happened in this year, so 2005, and what its effect would be afterwards or before. And that is it. That is how you create dummy variables in EViews. Thanks for watching this quick tutorial. If you like, click like, hit subscribe to see more of our videos, and thank you for watching. Take care. Welcome back guys, it's Michael from Economy. This is the 4th episode in our EViews tutorials, and today I'll be talking you through how to create graphs on EViews and copy them over to Office programs such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Now there is one small thing I'd like to point out here, and that is I'm using time series data. And so when I do plot a graph of an individual variable, it will be against time. It's just something to bear in mind. If I was using cross-section data, it would be against, say, the different countries that the measurements are taken in. And we'll start by doing just that. So I'll plot one single indicator. I've chosen population here. So all you have to do, double click, opens up a spreadsheet here of the raw data that has been taken from the Excel file. So what I want to do is go to view, click on graph, and it opens up these graph options here. Now the first thing you want to take note of is which type of graph you're using. So here it's highlighted as line and symbol, that's the default. You can also have bar, spike, area, dot plot, goes on. This list changes depending on if you're using one series of data or multiple. I'll show you that later on in the video. Something else to take note of here is this details section. If you go up to graph data, click on the drop down menu here. You don't just have to have the raw data. You can have means, medians, it keeps going. There's a lot of different options you can have for graphs here. Orientation is just where do you want the years axis in this situation, on the bottom or on the left. Very simple. Axis borders, it's all cosmetic. A lot of the options here on the left are cosmetic changes, but this axis and scaling, when you have more data series, this does come in very handy. I'll show you that in a bit. Back to the graph type, we're just going to do a simple line and symbol graph here. All you need to do is click OK, and there you go, you've got your graph. Now in order to copy this over to an Office program, here I'm going to be using Word. We'll be using one of the greatest creations in the history of computing, that is good old friend copy and paste. So you right click on the graph, hit copy to clipboard, go into your program, as I said here I'm using Word, and just paste it. Simple as that. And now I'm going to show you how to plot multiple series on the same graph. So you can come out of there, click cross. A side note here actually is EViews remembers that you've created a graph. When you next open up the series, there you go, it's still there. Now in order to plot multiple series on the same graph, just hold down Control and you can highlight whatever series you want to add. You can also click them back if you've got the wrong one. So here I'm going to just do population and fossil fuel consumption. So you right click, go to open as group, and here's the familiar spreadsheet view. Go to view, graph, exact same as before. The difference is, you'll notice here, multiple series has a drop down menu now. So you can have single graph, stacked in a single graph, so one on top of each other, and multiple graphs. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to use a single graph for now, just to show you what it's like. So if we go with the default settings here, click OK, but this is useless for comparison measures, as population's up in the 60 million mark. Fossil fuel consumption, it's in kilotons, it's down at 8 point whatever. And so we need to put another axis on this graph. So we go back into graph, go down to axes and scaling. If you're using an older version of EViews, these options will be in tabs above the top. So you can see on the right here, series axes alignment. What you want to do is put one of these on the right axis by clicking on this box here. And you can also have the option here, dual axis scaling. The default setting is no overlap, so the lines do not cross. And I'll show you what that looks like here. As you can see, population is on the lower half of the graph, and fossil fuel consumption is stacked above it, which some people may like, but I prefer to have the lines across. It's easier for comparison. So if you go back into graph, over to axes and scaling, and you click overlap scales, and it's a lot easier for comparison measures, as I mentioned. Now another graph type I'd like to show you is the scatter graph you can have on here, which allows you to see the relationship between the two variables. So if you go back onto graph options, down here to scatter, click OK, and here you can see the general trend between the two. Now it may be easier to see this relationship if you swap the axes over, so back over to axes and scaling, and just swap them around there from left to bottom, click OK, and again you can see sort of like a snake shape relationship there. Now you can also get lines of best fit. There's several different types. Go back onto graph. You see here in the detail section, fit lines. At the moment there's none. If you want just your standard line of best fit, it will be the regression line here. Click OK, and it shows the general trend of where your data is heading. In this example, it isn't very clear from the pattern of scatter plots. And now the final thing I want to show you here, we can come out of there. This is another point here. If you'd like to keep this group, so in this instance population and fossil fuel grouped together, you just click name here, name it wherever you'd like. I'll keep it as group 1, and it comes up here in your list right there. So you can click it, you're straight back into it. It's just a nice little shortcut there. Now, in order to plot a higher number of variables together, once again, you just highlight what you need. So I'm going to do population, log of GDP, fossil fuel consumption, and CO2. Again, right click, open as group. An important thing to note here is that the order that these variables are inputted into this group is the same order in which I highlighted them. So I did population first, then log of GDP. It's not the alphabetical order that you'd have in the work file here. And I'll show you why that could be a cause of confusion when you're trying to plot these graphs. If you go back into graph here, and on a multiple series, you could have them on a single graph, but the range in scale of these measurements tends to make it look like that. Completely useless in a comparison sense. So you go back to graph, and what you can do, if you go down to multiple graphs here, click OK, and this just shows you the relationship that they have against time. You can also have multiple graphs comparing the relationship in scatter graphs. So as you see here, in multiple series, there's multiple graphs, first versus all. If you click OK there, it's very hard to see there, I'll full screen it. So you have the first one, population, is in every single graph here to show the relationship between the two variables. And once again, all you have to do is right click, copy, go into Word or Excel, whatever, and click paste. I'd like to point out here that it does get pasted through as one singular object. Microsoft programs do not detect that these are multiple graphs, so that's something just to bear in mind there. And that is it. That is how you create graphs on EViews. If you like to just take your time, have a little play around, there are many options you can have with these graphs in this program. If you like the video, please like, hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll be back soon with my next video. What's going on, guys? It's Michael here from Economy once again. Sorry about the wait in between videos. I'm going to be focused on releasing them hopefully once a week from now on. We've still got quite a few to go in this EViews series. Next video that's up, going to get cracking with, is descriptive statistics and hypothesis testing. EViews makes this very simple to do, so I'm going to get right to it. Just going to open up the log of GDP here. Just a side note, I've seen a few comments asking where I get my data from. It's all from the World Bank database. Extensive range of data that you can get from there, and it's all for free, so a great source there. Yeah, back to it. So once you double click on a series, as I said, I've used log of GDP here, you'll come up with the raw data. To pull up descriptive statistics, all you have to do is simply click view, descriptive statistics and tests, and histogram stats. This is it's a nice little graph here, especially to include in any reports that you're doing. It gives things like the mean, median, standard deviation. Also a nice little histogram there. You're able to copy these into a program such as Word or Excel. That should be clicking on either of those. You can select one or the other, or the image as a whole. Again, it's just right click, copy to clipboard, and you can paste it wherever you like. If you don't want the histogram, you just want a nice little table, and just go to view, descriptive stats, and stats table there. And again, copy the whole thing, just click up there, right click, copy, keep it formatted, and you can paste it in another program. In terms of hypothesis testing for this this one series of data that we've got, go through view, you go to descriptive stats and simple hypothesis tests. Let's click on there, and Windows come up a little funny there. It gives you the option to test the mean, the variance, or the median. For examples purposes, we'll just test if the mean is equal to 0. You can do that by just typing a 0 in there. Click OK, and up comes all the information that you need. It gives you that all-important t-stat. So just refer to your t-stat table, obviously depending on your degrees of freedom, which is included observations -1 and -1. A quick way for me to just determine here where I can reject or accept the null. The probability is 0. So anytime you see a probability of 0, you know that at the 0.05% you can reject the null hypothesis. And yeah, that's pretty much it for a single series. What you can also do with EViews is do this for multiple series. So if I take log of GDP and fossil fuels, just going to open them up as a group here. And as you can see, once again, it's just the raw data. Bring up something more meaningful, click view, descriptive stats, and common sample. Once again, it gives you the same stats that you had before, so the mean, median, yada yada yada. What you can do with this is covariance analysis. Very good little tests you can do here.
So not just covariance, also correlation, the two that we're going to test here. You've got quite a few other options that you can do there. Layout will come into a single table. It looks best like that. And just click OK. Now you can see here you've got the top one, each of these three. The top one will be covariance and the bottom will be correlation. So it gives you those stats there. You can throw in your analysis that you're doing for whatever project it is. And yeah, this data is very simple to get. As I said before, EViews makes it very easy for us. These are standard hypothesis tests that you do at the start of your projects, whatever you're doing. But yeah, very quick video. As I said, just to get this series back up and running. I'll be back again very soon with another for you as we get a bit more into detail on what EViews can actually do. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you like it, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. As I said, I will be putting out videos a lot more frequently from now on. Leave any questions in the comments section and we'll get back to you. What's going on, guys? It's Mike from Economy here again. Today's video, we're going to take you through estimating a two-variable linear regression model. And to get started, I'll just explain what a two-variable linear regression model is. Basically, pinning up one of your variables as the dependent variable, and in this case, for this example, we're going to use the log of CO2 emissions, and we're pinning that up against an independent variable. For this example, we're using the log of GDP. So all we're testing here is whether the log of GDP has an effect in the variation of the log of CO2. So to get started and run the regression, go up to Quick here, and click Estimate Equation, and it brings up this box here. So to put in your equation, just start typing whatever you've named your variables. There should be a drop down box here that can finish it off for you. You need the intercept, which is already generated by EViews C. You see up the top there in every workfile. And in between each one, just put a space. There's no need to include equal signs, multiplication signs, nothing like that. So we'll just go there, log of GDP. Down below here, just make sure that your method is ordinary least squares. We have quite a few there, but this should be the default. We've got your sample size there in case you need to shorten it down at all. And just click OK. Then you get your regression results here in the next window. I'll just run through very quickly what you're actually given here. So you can see up the top is your dependent variable, your method of least squares, the sample dates, and how many observations were included. This column here gives you the coefficients. You can see the intercept there is a coefficient of 20.803, and the log of GDP has a coefficient of minus 0.268890. So how you can interpret this is that for every 1 unit increase in the log of GDP, you are getting a small negative effect of 0.26 on the log of the log of CO2. And one thing to take from that, I guess, is that the countries that are used in this sample are developed nations. Developed nations tend to export their dirty industries, their mining, their manufacturing to developing nations. I'm sure if I'd used a wider sample of countries, I would have got some developing nations, and that would have changed these results completely. This is just for examples purposes. So here you've got your t-stats. You have to refer to your t-table, get your degrees of freedom, and you'll be able to see if it's significant or not. Other useful things to look at is the R squared here. What the R squared does, if you're not aware, just shows you in percentage terms how much the independent variable or variables are explaining the variation of your dependent variable. So in my case, quite a low score here. I've got 12.9%, so not a very good model. You can tell that even more with the adjusted R-squared giving me a reading of 2%. So obviously this model needs some work. We also see here the F-stat. So once again, go back to your textbooks and get your F table out. This will just show you how much significant explanatory power there is in the model itself. You can also check the standard error of the regression as a whole, just to see what the average error in the model is. One thing that I can give away straight away on how significant your model is the probability reading here. What you want is to be able to reject the null at a 5% level. And for that to happen, this has to be less than 0.05. Mine is obviously a lot higher, and so I can't reject the null at that significance level. I'd have to go through and see whereabouts I could reject the null, at what percentage. Yeah, they're all the main sort of features that you need to look at here. For certain regressions that you're running, you may need to look at a few others. Go through some of them in later videos. But for now, what you want to do is just save this, so you can come back to it any time. Just go up to Object, Name. I'm just going to leave it as Equation 1 there, the default setting. Click OK, and you can see it's just loaded up on the left there. So I can come out of there, and I can open it up at any time. Whenever you make a change to your worksheet, always recommend just clicking Save once again, and that's all sorted. So that's it. It's quite a short video today. Next video hopefully should be out next week. Be on a 3-variable linear regression model. Be much quicker one. I wanted to show you how to create the regression. Just go through explaining the findings that you get to. So I hope you liked the video, and until next one, I'll see you soon. Bye for now.